Hi, everyone. This is John Gaertner with Biz Esteem. Thanks for joining us today. We're on our second episode of 2x4x2 Leadership Framework, talking to Kevin Kivikko today. Kevin is a veteran in the world of corporate communications and embarked on his career journey after graduating with a BFA from the University of Illinois at Urbana. From his early days in Chicago as a creative art director on Michigan Avenue, Kevin's trajectory included roles as an art director, vice president of creative, and ultimately vice president of internet strategies for an international public relations firm. In 2001, Kevin launched his own creative design and development company with a dual focus on meeting and event production and public relations. Kevin's diverse clientele ranged from Abbott Labs, Boston Scientific, CDW, McDonald's, Miller Coors, and the U.S. Navy, and dozens more, showcasing his versatility in delivering brand, websites, corporate identities, engineering, interactive sales, and training tools. Post-retirement, Kevin remains active, channeling his creativity into designing promotional materials for various groups. He enjoys hiking, golfing with friends, and is now amidst his new adventure, voiceover work, adding to his next phase of illustrious career. Join us as we delve into Kevin Kivikko's remarkable journey exploring the intersection between creativity, leadership, and the evolving landscape of corporate communications. Hi, everybody. This is John Gaertner with Biz Esteem. Today is our second leadership interview series with a dear friend of mine, Kevin Kivikko, who has a plethora of business experience and just overall knowledge that I'd love to share with you today. As you all may know, the leadership series was developed to try to document good business acumen, stories to help you all in your endeavors in leadership. And just take some great experience and pass it along to others. The series has, again, 2x4x2, two icebreaker questions, 4 business questions, and then 2, what I call kind of a esteem or just aspirational type focused questions. With that said, welcome, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing fine, John. How are you doing today? Great to see you again.
It's been a while. We've known each other for many years, and as you know, raising children and just business, time goes by so quickly. And although we haven't talked personally on Zoom, but we've tried to stay in touch socially with Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. So thanks for joining us, and I'm so thankful for you to be a part of this today.
Well, I appreciate being asked, John. I've had a long career. I'm retired now, but somebody finds some value from this. That's great.
Kevin, one of the first questions that I had for you was these icebreaker questions. And I know normally we do something about music, but I thought you might want to share one of your best vacations as one of the icebreakers.
Well, my wife and I really enjoy travel, and in September we went to Ireland, spent a few days in Dublin, and then rented a car and had the fun experience of driving on that opposite side of the road on tiny little roads with impenetrable hedges and or jagged rock walls. It was a great time. We drove primarily through southern Ireland, and the scenery was spectacular. The people were just charming, and yeah, it was a great joy.
That's awesome. Yeah, one thing that I was there a couple of years back. One thing that was amazing to me, just flying in, is how green it is.
Oh,
You know, it's like what is the whole country just
it is an
blooming?
emerald isle.
Yeah, I know. But you hear about it, but when you see it live, it really was. The thing I had as far as like an icebreaker question, the second one is, who's your favorite person of inspiration? I know some of our other guests use personal, but it could be business or personal.
Well, this is fairly personal. I enjoy reading philosophers and people who guide me, keep me centered, calm, focus on my priorities. One of my favorites is the philosopher emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius. You know, one of my favorite quotes from him is, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts."
Well, thanks, Kevin. That was super insightful. I mean, I think you're right. I think what we put in our minds and what we surround ourselves with really creates what we purpose in our life and what we become. And I do agree with you that the thoughts are important, and positivity and good vibes, if you will, is a product of your thoughts.
When you stay positive, things go in that correct direction.
Right. It's hard to do. We're coming on Q4, and a bunch of my clients are so busy that they're getting scrambled. And I think we need to breathe and really say, we don't forget about the business, obviously, goals and trying to get year end, but we don't have to do it and turn on each other or turn on the organization. Try to just stay positive. And if you think of the end goal, and as we approach the holidays here, I think that if you realize there's going to be an end to this, and it's just a certain amount of time, it kind of just like let's just go get through this. That positivity kind of lends itself. So we see it in real world every day, or at least I do. All right, let's get into the four questions, the 2x4x2. The favorite job and why.
Well, I spent 40 plus years as a creative director in the meetings and events business, and then later in public relations. I was a designer, an illustrator, a writer, a strategist, a web developer. As a creative director, you have that variety of responsibilities. You guide a creative team, you work with clients to figure out what their needs are, and then develop communication strategies, concepts, and methods to achieve those goals. Figure out how to win the business and then bring it to life for a target audience. It's a complicated job, but I think of all those jobs I had, those responsibilities, I think my favorite was speech writing and speech coaching. Helping executives structure their presentation, refine it, and then deliver the messages to sales meetings, customer events. That was my favorite job, was helping perhaps a less than confident individual get up there and really nail their presentation.
I would imagine in the professional world, I come from kind of a blue collar family. My dad, was a maintenance man, but he saw proof in his work every day. And as you talk about preparing for meetings, I think that is the product of what you do. And if you have one good meeting, if you have one successful thing, that is the product of it. So, do you think that kind of brought you joy that at the end of the either the meeting or that the goal was achieved? And tell me a little bit about that.
A big sales meeting when a vice president, executive vice president's up there imploring them to get out there and sell. It's really rewarding to see the end result after the meeting, that sales have improved, that individuals were able to get out there and do and make the objectives that were set for them at the meeting, and then just even at the meeting itself, seeing the reaction of the audience to a well-delivered speech, because these were big sales meetings. 2,000-3,000 people at a time. We have a big flashy theme, a big stage set, lots of lighting, video projection. My clients' faces filling the screen, watching them really connect with their audience. It's very rewarding.
So you worked with them for a long period of time, so you could see the pre, the post, and the output, if you will.
Right. It started with usually a phone interview, and I'd record that, and then I'd use that as the pattern for the speech that I write, so that it sounds like the individual who's giving the speech, but maybe with a little more grammar, a little more refinement. And then we rehearse together on the phone. We talk about how to rehearse, how to prepare yourself, how to use a teleprompter, how to rehearse for using a teleprompter. Just helping the client make really conscious decisions about everything from body language to emphasis to pacing to all the types of things you need to do to make a presentation more interesting, more engaging.
It's a lost art, I think, and especially now, look at us. I mean, we are on a digital forum, right? We're kind of like being in person, and the whole atmosphere of places has kind of gone away. It's interesting. Maybe as our B clips here, we could talk a little bit about how in the digital age, you can bring that same type of an emotion into something like this, right? Because it's all digital. What do you think are the tools needed for success in business today or just in general?
The word that comes to mind most of all is adaptability. Over the years, I've seen lots of businesses, lots of changes in the business. When I began in the meetings and events business, we were creating little 35 millimeter slides. extremely in demand. Every presentation, every meeting had to have slides, and there were dozens of companies around the Chicago area that just cranked out slides, and it was all done by hand. Cut and paste was literally cutting things out and pasting it down, and then going through a multi-level series of processes to get that paste up into a negative form, onto color film, processed, mounted. It took dozens of people to make it happen. So adaptability, being able to anticipate and then roll with the punches in that business probably the mid 80s, things began to change. You could now, at that time, instead of calling in someone like us to make slides for you, you could on your desktop computer, which were just beginning to show up on people's desks, you could send your information, usually on a floppy disk, to a service bureau, which would put your information onto a slide. There was software created. It was PowerPoint, but it was the most popular one at that time was a software called Harvard Graphics.
Oh yeah.
And you made slides, and instead of spending hundreds of dollars to make it one slide, you could get it imaged, as the term was, for less than $10.
Yeah, that was game changing.
That was a dramatic transformation in the business and among the managers. I mean, making slides manual was a tremendously profitable business. A slide was basically worth more than its weight in gold. It was very profitable, and that was something very difficult for business owners to let go of, that profitability, because the profit margins when you're imaging slides is dramatically lower. You can do more volume, and you need fewer people, but the margins are considerably less. And I saw several companies unable to make that transition. They weren't able to adapt to a changing environment. I mean, it's essentially evolution in action. If the environment around you changes, you better adapt or you die.
Yeah, we take for granted, you may have heard from the last episode, I'm a big vinyl person. We take for granted the tactile. And the thought that comes to me is like, where did all those slides go? Are they, Iron Mountain storage somewhere? Like, think about all of the slides that you created, and our dear friend Tom Dwyer, who does the same thing, right? He had done presentations to hundreds and thousands of people, and the slide, you had that carousel, right? Where did all those carousels?
Well, I have some under my desk. There's a box full of slides, and I have a slide projector too. It's
good. Keep it, because you can maybe be able to turn that into another business here. They mail it to your house. Yeah, right. No,
I don't think so, John.
yeah, I'm done with it.
It's not quite the same as vinyl.
Yeah, right. What do you think is your most memorable business meeting?
Well, I'd say that was my business meetings.
Right.
So I've seen some great ones, big audiences, grand ballrooms, massive stage sets, actors and singers and dancers, big AV productions, all that stuff going on, big name entertainment. But the meeting probably that sticks most in my mind was very early in my days as a creative director. It was an abject failure. We learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. And it was a sales meeting for a large client in a brand new hotel on the Monterey Peninsula. Client got a great deal because it was a new hotel. They love saving money, but that was good. But the bad thing was they insisted on using local hotel staff for their stage crew. We recommended that they use our team, but the folks that they gave us at the hotel were inexperienced and relatively indifferent. Now, this was kind of in the dinosaur days of AV, and the soundtrack of pre-programmed presentations was on a reel-to-reel audio. We were working with 3 different brand managers. Each one had their own multimedia show with their own soundtrack and their own tape reel. Everything went great in rehearsal, but the actual show was a fiasco. First, the hotel hadn't quite worked the bugs out of their electrical system, so in a room of 400 people, the lights just went out. Felt like hours, but it was only about 5 minutes, and the lights came back on. Now, the stage crew, which were hotel crew, were pulled away from their posts. They're flustered, but we're back on track. Introduce the first multimedia show. The lights dim, the soundtrack starts, and it's the wrong tape reel. And it's sending signals to our multimedia projectors, and they're flashing slides that in no correct order. Well, of course, we shut it down right away. But if you're in the meetings business, you don't want to see your client running down the center aisle toward the backstage with fire coming out of their eyes. It got better, but I learned a lot of lessons that day, including what it's like to lose a client. There are things you can't compromise on. If you want to have a success, you need to stick to your principles and convince your client that this is the right way to do it. Anything short of this puts your entire meeting, your entire investment at risk. So that was my most memorable meeting.
Well, I kind of like the fact that you use a negative one because I think, like you said, you learn the most from it. And I love the fact that you brought out compromise. I think that one of the hardest things to do in life is to not compromise and to stick to what you know is right. And I bet your gut was like, when they said that they were going to provide you with the staff, like something, your spider sense is thinking something's going to go wrong here, and probably sure enough it did. But
Well, I had folks on my team who said, "Don't do it, Kevin. Don't do it. You can't say yes to this." I acquiesced to the client.
yeah, that's hard. I find that in my own work every day. And you're right; those are the ones that you learn from. But I think that when you become a little bit older and wiser, that you can say, Here's what happened." But you don't have that story. But I'm sure after that, that situation, you never compromised again.
Not on core principles. And the core principle there was you need your team behind you, a team you trust and know to get the job done. When we compromised and let inexperienced, uninterested people onto the team, we ran the risk of having happened what happened.
Hopefully that client, and you talk about losing a client. I mean, I think that that's an interesting one. Sometimes losing clients are part of the learning, but also you learn how to keep the good ones later on. So,
Well, I think that's an important point as well. I think you have to be ready to let a client go. Over the years, I've fired numerous clients because they just weren't good for my business.
yeah, that's a hard thing to do. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in consulting or private. I think that I'm learning that from some of my clients as well. Is they're not taking business that is not a good fit or is going to take them into a wrong direction. So I think that it lends itself to consulting services, but also even in business that, hey, we'd pass along the opportunity to somebody else that might be a better fit.
It lets you concentrate on the people that are your most valued clients. Those that take up too much of your time, are pains to work with. All they do is color the quality of your thoughts.
The fourth question I had here was the biggest opportunity in the next 5 years. I think that this came about with taking all the knowledge that you have in your career. What do you see? And we talked about technology changes and things like that. What are the biggest opportunities in the next 5 years?
Perhaps the most obvious one is the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have on all of us. I just was speaking with somebody who has a child just about to go to college, and one of the up and coming careers is an AI ethicist. Somebody who ensures that AI is being used ethically. As a creative person myself, I wouldn't want AI to be scanning my designs, my words, and then plagiarizing them by reconfiguring them and incorporating them into its output. Copyright infringement, I think, is going to be an issue with AI in the coming years.
No, it's amazing. Everybody that I talk to when talk about what's coming up and what's happening and what's new, what should we be thinking about? Everything points to AI. The scary part for me is when bots learn from humans and then humans use bots, language and words, that after a while, there's no more human aspect of it. It's just bots regurgitating bots. And that's when it becomes really scary. I'm a creative person. I like to think of myself as an artist. I really now see how technology is taking that artistry out of almost anything and everything. We're taking images and we're taking words and we're putting it together, and it might look good, but where is the artistry in it? So I think you have a really good point there. But the ethics is the part of that, and where are we as a society that when bots start making their own information up, isn't that the definition of kind of
Well,
fake news? I mean, we're just making shit up, you know?
in a way, it kind of harkens back to the slide making story. Is that slides? Now one person with PowerPoint can do the work of what in the 1980s it took at least a dozen people to do. You needed typesetters and proofreaders and artists and photographers and then the person who mounted the slides. It was a huge undertaking, labor wise. And now it's changed completely. And should be considered just a tool. It really is a way to enhance our lives. In the medical field, I was reading that AI will be able to recognize things that humans would take years to see. So it's going to be an interesting next few years.
I don't know the right answer yet, but I think that the ethics and creativity, the artistry needs to be intact, whether that be copyright or any types of legislation to make sure that it is secured, because I think it is important for us even to grasp the technology, that we feel good about what it is, and not only feel good, but it's something that there's an output there that, makes sense and is something we're all proud of. We get into the other two questions here. Who gave you the biggest opportunity for your success?
Carolyn Evans. She took a chance on me, and it altered my career path dramatically. I was studying art history at the University of Illinois. I was going to be a professor somewhere eventually. Think of me as kind of imagine me as a kind of an Indiana Jones guy, out there on digs and studying ancient art. But I was attending summer school at U of I, and I needed a job. So I went to the college employment office, and they had two options. One was I was a farm kid. I grew up on a farm, shoveled a lot of stuff, and that was one of the options. And I said, "What else you got?" And Carolyn Evans was the art director at the College of Agriculture's art department, and an unknown art history student had worked for her, and she told the employment office, "If you have an art history student, send him my way." And I took the job. It was a part-time gig, work a few hours a week. But then when I graduated in January. She offered me a temporary full-time gig, putting together slide presentations for a multi-university communications program. That's what got me into slide making, got me into graphic design. I learned everything I know about graphic design on the job with Carolyn and the College of Agriculture. And then I discovered that Chicago had this huge industry of making slides. So getting a job was really easy because I interviewed 4 places and I got 3 job offers in one day. And so now I'm a graphic artist. And that's what kicked me off in this direction. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation if I had stuck as an art history professor.
That's an amazing story. Isn't it funny how happen chance and just fate can put you down in a direction for your whole life as a career? I mean, like you said, I couldn't even think. Someone brought up to me the other day, like, think about it. The internet didn't even exist. Like what we're doing today wasn't even a job.
Right.
We as a kid, we used words like fireman, electrician, banker, things like that. But to be in the digital world, even in art, I think that art has become professional. I know many artists that felt like they couldn't make a living out of art. But now, I mean, I could think graphic design and allowed people to do that. And I think that injection of art into business So important. But that's a great story, Kevin. I appreciate that. The most memorable handshake, and I came up with this because it's like the question before. What was that either pivotal or one where you're like, man, if that didn't happen, I don't know where I would be, or something great happened during that meeting where the handshake either ended or began. So the question is, what's the most memorable handshake and who and why?
In my career, I've met a ton of people, ton of famous people, astronauts, politicians, entertainers, and of course, a lot of executives, executive vice presidents, C-level folks, and I've shaken a lot of hands. But I guess the most memorable handshake was one that didn't happen. The year was 1980. Early in the year, presidential primary campaign was going on. And among others, George H.W. Bush was running against Ronald Reagan. And I had just months before taken a job in the city. So I was on the train, on the Chicago Northwestern train down to the city. My morning commute was going along like it normally did. And I start down the escalator, and at the bottom of the escalators, here's George H.W. Bush shaking everyone's hands as they come off the escalator. Now, at the time, it was 1980. I had a lot more hair, big beard, kind of a hippie vibe going for me. He took one look at me and turned away. So that was the handshake that didn't happen, and it was probably the most memorable one.
Wow. That that's a great story.
It was very funny. I'm like, well, there's George Bush down there. I'm ready to shake his hand. It was like, nope.
Wow. Wow. You wouldn't think that, and like that would never fly today. Can you imagine? I mean,
Well, I'm sure he skipped a bunch of people. I mean, there were a lot of folks, but
oh, that's a great story. I appreciate that. Well, anything else here? So that you kind of end it with, first of all, thank you for your time. Again, the importance here is to try to extract some of your experiences that kind of help others moving forward. And I'll just wrap it up with anything that either summarizes your success and how you were able to achieve it, or anything that you would pass along to, I don't want to say the younger generation, but again, the next generation of business leaders.
the thing that comes to mind is because my business was communications. So I've always tried to bear in mind two very important words: that everything communicates. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you choose to do or not say sends a message. It's very important to be deliberate and strategic in every word that you utter, every shift you make in your gesture, your body language, every email you send, every question you ask and answer. Everything communicates.
Thank you. And everything sticks too now, huh? So all the more reason to make sure you live by that. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. As I promised to my first guest, Alan, we'll do a follow up at some point in time, see how the audience responds, and if they have any questions, and get you back on the show. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and have a great one.
Well, it was an honor, John. Thank you very much for asking me, and hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Yeah, hopefully shortly.